how you communicate on these three levels, but you communicate on another level. So we will put two of those drawings side by side. And you will start to see why there's a breakdown in leadership, why there's a breakdown in management, why there's a breakdown in relationships. It becomes so obvious because we're going about it the wrong. We're literally working against ourselves. When we understand this, when I look at you, I see your head as your mind, and I see everything from the neck down as being the body. I automatically have an imaginary line right across the center of your head. Now, I can watch your body. I can be aware of the energy I'm picking up from you, so I can tell what you're doing with the ideas in here. I know if an idea is just coming into your consciousness, you'll entertain it and then reject it. Or if it comes in, you'll think, I like that, and you turn it over to the emotional mind, you'll feel it. What's the great entertainers? They get the idea right into your emotional mind. They will alter the vibration you're in. Every one of the great ones. Every one of them. Now, they may not be able to articulate on what they're doing, but they know how to do it. And they do it very well. Okay? Look here for a moment. They are what you call sensory factors. They're hooked up like little antennae to the conscious mind. And unfortunately, that's what most people live through. They go by what they hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. It's sort of a sad situation, but that's the way they live. They don't understand what they're doing, but they do it anyway. We are taught to do this. We're taught to do this as little kids in school. We're taught to this at home. Will you listen to what I'm telling you? Will you look at this? And we're not taught to think. You can go all the way through school. They will not teach a course on thinking. Thinking is a subject which can be learned just the same as you learn typing or playing a piano. Anybody can learn it. Yet it can. It's a subject that we can teach. And that's what we have to do. We have to start thinking. Now let's look at this. We'll say there is a person. There's the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the body. Now the conscious mind has the ability to think. That is our thinking mind. You remember I talked about the intellectual factors? That's done with your reasoning factor, your inductive reasoning factor. You can think. You can actually tap in to the energy of the universe that's flowing into your consciousness, and you can think anything you want, and no one can cause you to think something you don't want to think. That is the absolute freedom. Viktor Frankl pointed that out so well. You can think anything. The problem with most people is they don't think of what they want, they think of what they don't want. They let the present results control their thinking. They have a problem in their relationship. What are they doing? They're thinking of the problem. They have a financial problem. What are they doing? They're thinking of the financial problem. Now, little do they realize that they are actually setting up a vibration where they're going to attract more of the same. But they don't know that. They'll say, you don't understand. God, if you had my life, if you could see the results I'm getting. They're so locked in, they can't hear anything else. We got to stop and we got to think. Now, the conscious mind as our educated mind. That's the part school focuses on. School focuses on us gathering information. They give us a book, and they'll tell us to read the book, and then they'll give us a test. And if you can answer the questions to the test, you pass the exam. You do this often enough, and they'll say you're an educated individual. That doesn't mean you're an educated individual at all. That doesn't mean what education is. Education comes from the Latin educo, meaning to educe, develop, or to draw from within. From where? You go to the spiritual core of your being. Draw it to the surface. That's why we have people walking the streets. They're educated derelicts. They have all kinds of degrees. They got degrees coming off the end of their business card, and they don't even know how to find work. This is where our intellect is resonant. This is our intellectual mind. And we have all these intellectual factors locked up here in our consciousness. Now, the subconscious is quite different. We call that the emotional mind. Now, it's important that you really pay attention to this and think. The conscious mind is our thinking mind. It's our educated mind. It's where the intellect is resonant. We could probably put about 150 names on here. Now, let's just get rid of that and think, what can we do? Since we can think, then you have the ability to choose. You choose your own thoughts. Now, thought is the preamble to everything. I like the way U.S. Anderson put it in a book, 3 Magic Words. He said, when we fully realize that thought causes all, you'll know there's never any limits that we ourselves do not impose. We have the ability to think anything we want. That's a beautiful truth. We could be destitute and we could think of ourselves in the most beautiful, prosperous situation. Not only can we choose, we have the ability to accept or reject. So you know all that stuff you're hearing on the news? Stuff you read in the paper? Or the conversations that are going on beside you? You don't have to accept that. You can reject it. I don't care if everybody in the room tells you something's true. That doesn't make it true. You can reject it. You don't have to accept it. We have the ability to accept or reject anything. Yet if we reject it, then we've got the ability to originate. Why? Because we have the ability to choose. Now I'm going to tell you your subconscious mind cannot do. Your subconscious mind cannot reject. Your subconscious mind must accept whatever you give to it. It is totally deductive. It is immoral. It doesn't care what you plant, but it must return what you plant. It must accept because it has absolutely no ability to reject. Now let's go back to our acting analogy again. The subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real. So you see, the great actors, they're very emotionally involved in the role they're playing. They're so emotionally involved they become it. Gertie gave good advice in that. He said, before you can do something, you got to be it. Before you can put on a great performance, you got to be it. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and something you've imagined. You can imagine your company where you want it to be. You can imagine your relationships being where you want it to be. You can imagine yourself being wherever you want to be. And when you hold that image and you stay with that image, you must move into that vibration. What you're really doing, when you impress that idea upon your subconscious, you instantly flip your mind onto that frequency. That's really what you're doing. You're flipping yourself onto a higher frequency. Now, most people build a dream and then they go right back to where they are. And they're thinking, if I just do this, I could get it to happen. No, you've got to be it now. You've got to stay there. You've got to get the picture and you've got to limit. You've got to live with that idea. You cannot afford to spend 5 seconds thinking of why you can't. Now, if you're at home, I'll give you a good exercise. Or you could be in your office or wherever. Imagine you're here in this room. Everything we suggest the audience do, you do. Forget that you're watching the streaming. Let yourself be here. Get right into the audience. Feel their energy. You can feel their energy. You might be sitting in Kuching. It doesn't make any difference. Your mind can come right here in this room. There's no limit to what you can do. Absolutely none.